Hello, wonderful students. This video is going to be all about how humans and other activities have disrupted some of these natural cycles that we have. So the first one I'm going to talk about is the nitrogen cycle. This nitrogen cycle is where nitrogen gets added to the soil, nitrogen feeds plants, the plants grow. Okay, nitrogen is really good for plants to grow, and then they add it back to the soil. And that, when you hear my discussion about algal blooms, that's talking about how we disrupt the nitrogen cycle. Then we have the carbon dioxide cycle. That's where we breathe out carbon dioxide, plants take it in. It's supposed to be nice and balanced, but we've kind of overloaded the carbon dioxide cycle. And then the last one is the water cycle. That's where water evaporates and then rains back down. And again, this is all about how we disrupt those cycles. Hello, wonderful students. Here I am along the Greenbelt Trail in Louisville. If you've never been there, it's a nice little trail to run down. Now, you see like civilization behind me, there's some apartments. Here's the Greenbelt Trail right there. But if I just turn this way, all of a sudden, I'm in a nice forest. And I want to show you an example of an algal bloom. And so, if you follow me this way, usually there's more water here, but it hasn't rained in a while, and so I have to kind of climb in here. But if you follow me this way, through this nice little forest, you'll see this really yucky green pond, okay? And this is the result of what's called an algal bloom. And so what happens in this area is along this trail, of course, they mow and they add fertilizer to make sure the grass stays nice and green. And so when it rains, that fertilizer will wash into these ditches right here. Now, fertilizer makes plants grow. And so when you get fertilizer in the water, boom, you have this explosion of algae. And that's what's called an algal bloom. Now, as you can see though, the algae really coats the water, coats the surface of it, and it chokes out all life underneath. So there's nothing that can really live here anymore. There's no fish, no turtles, no nothing. And so this is just a mini algal bloom. Again, this is just like a ditch off a trail. But this has happened in lakes, like Lake Erie, one of the Great Lakes, which can cause a lot of harm because people fish in the lake. There's a whole ecosystem in the lake, and it can cause a lot of damage for that ecosystem. It's happened to several ponds, and so what we really have to watch is making sure we fertilize at the right times when it is going to sink into the ground, and make sure that we don't add any extra fertilizer that can cause runoff. Runoff is what leads to stuff like this. I just wanted to show you another example of a very small algal bloom. It's another just little runoff area in a ditch, and all you can see, I don't know if you can really see the color, but all of that is just green muck. Okay, definitely not something that is attractive to step in. Again, nothing is living under there. Ducks don't even want to sit in there. All right, another disruption to natural cycles is obviously cars, or just really any type of machine. If you can hear it, there's an airplane flying above me right now. Perfect timing. Let me just wait for that to pass before I continue. But anyway, cars, machines, airplanes, all that good stuff, they are adding carbon dioxide to the atmosphere. And so the earth was actually made to be in balance. And so I know you've learned before that we breathe out carbon dioxide, and then plants, like this tree here, take it in. Well, plants were meant to take in carbon dioxide from us, from animals, and that was the earth in natural balance. But when we created machines like this, we're now adding a whole bunch of carbon dioxide extra to the atmosphere. And so that carbon dioxide gets trapped into the atmosphere, and it does lead to warmer temperatures and a bunch of other consequences, which you'll find out when I talk about the water cycle. So, a couple of things I wanted to show you as far as this carbon dioxide cycle. So I told you that the natural cycle is, humans, animals, we breathe out CO2, plants take it in. But we've thrown that cycle out of balance by adding machines, cars, factories, airplanes, stuff like that. And so I want to show you this graph, which I absolutely love. This gray line here shows you that the natural carbon dioxide natural carbon dioxide cycle goes up and down. Okay, and so yes, carbon dioxide levels go up and down every year, and it just has to do with the seasons, whether it's warmer or colder, how much carbon dioxide those plants are taking in, that kind of stuff. However, this red line shows you the overall trend of CO2 levels. And so as you can see, yes, the carbon dioxide levels go up and down, but they never go down as far as they did the year before. And so overall, our CO2 levels are rapidly increasing. And this is quite a drastic increase. It's not like it's kind of increasing slowly. This is a pretty sharp, pretty fast increase. And so you can see why it has scientists concerned, because it's going to raise the temperatures of our planet very, very quickly. Now, it's going to raise it by a few degrees, which people may think, well, that's a few degrees, that's not a big deal. But on a global scale, it can be. I also want to show you these images here that have been circulating around the news ever since this pandemic started. So this image was taken from Business Insider. This is Los Angeles before the lockdown, or before the shelter in place, and then this is after. And then this one is from a UK newspaper, and it's called Daily Mail. It's out of the UK, and these are smog levels in New York City. This was in 2019, March 1st to March 19th, and then this is 2020, March 1st to March 19th. And so, I mean, not only are carbon dioxide levels increasing because of carbon emissions like factories and cars and stuff like that, but of course it's also pollution. There's so many chemicals and particles in that exhaust from cars that you can see this dramatic difference. And so I'm interested to hear from you guys what y'all think. I mean, obviously the shelter in place has done a lot, and there's pictures like this all over. There's pictures from Houston, from some cities in Florida, and they're all reporting that the smog levels are going way, way down because of the shelter in place. Now, obviously people need to get to work. Obviously we can't just forever have people not going to work and stuff like that, but could there be some slight changes we make when this is all over? Maybe corporations can invest more in working from home. Maybe we could invest more in public transportation. I don't know. Bring more business locally so you can ride your bike, that kind of stuff. But I'm interested in hearing from you what you think could be a possible solution to kind of clearing up some of these pollution levels and maybe reducing our carbon footprint just a little bit. All right, the last thing I wanted to talk to you about was the water cycle. And so this little pouch here, I actually found at Target in one of those like dollar bins, and I'm teaching my daughter about the water cycle, and you know, she's 3, so yeah, super easy stuff, right? But at home, in order to view the water cycle, all you need is like a clear Ziploc bag, put some water in the bottom, and then tape it to a window somewhere. Preferably on the outside, it works faster. I just brought this one in so y'all can see it better. But the water cycle is pretty simple, and I know you've learned this since elementary school. We have the water collection from like lakes, ponds, or rivers. That's going to evaporate, or there's transpiration. Transpiration is water released by plants. So that evaporates and it condenses. These are these small water droplets you see here. So it condenses and it forms clouds, okay? So clouds are just a bunch of like moisture that's condensed into the sky. Now, when that gets too heavy, you have these big water droplets. The water is getting too heavy. That's eventually going to precipitate down, fall back down in the form of rain into your lakes, ponds, and rivers again. So very simple cycle, but of course, we're looking at disruptions. And so I mentioned before carbon dioxide. So we have overloaded our atmosphere with carbon dioxide. And when that happens, that carbon dioxide gets dissolved into our lakes and ponds and oceans. And when carbon dioxide dissolves in water, it forms carbonic acid. And so we actually, our lakes and our ponds are actually becoming just a teeny tiny bit acidic. Same with our oceans. And so if you've heard of acid rain, that's why. You have the extra carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. It gets dissolved in the oceans, forms carbonic acid. That gets evaporated up into the sky. And so when it rains down, it's actually raining an acidic rain. And so, ouch. That's it.